Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So yeah, there has been quite a bit to cover here since even the video I did yesterday, so let's go through it. The video I recorded yesterday was recorded about 2 hours before the Kickstarter came to an end, so let's actually cover it now that the backing period has ended. So you can see here you backed this project in the past tense because it has finished. As you can see here, the page has changed a bit. Late pledges here, so it ended up with 81,567 backers for a total of $9,535,317. It hit the number 10 spot overall for the most funded Kickstarters, so really cool to see. And they cover that information here in their update post successful funding of the campaign. Smashed records. So here are the details. Funded within 16 minutes. That was day one, of course. There's the total they made, the total backers, the amount of stretch goals we ended up unlocking, a rundown of everything that you're going to get, the playbooks, the NPC legends here. Really cool stuff. Here are the records. So top 10 funded, number 10, number 1 funded tabletop role-playing game, and number 9 most backed, as in this is the 9th most amount of people who have backed a project ever on Kickstarter. So very cool to see there. They also say Dante Basco is joining the celebrity play of the game, which was the final stretch goal. So it's cool they've added another Avatar actor in, but I still don't feel very strongly about it as the final stretch goal, of course. Late pledges. So if you had any wonder about what would they've done if it wasn't funded, they had no plan if it wasn't funded. They were 100% confident this was going to get funded. There was no reason it wasn't going to be. They were using Kickstarter as a kind of pre-order mechanism, and the fact that they're immediately allowing sort of late pledges for basically an entire month up until October 1st highlights that they're basically saying you can continue to order now all the way up until October 1st. There's no problem whatsoever. Now, backer kit. So this is for anyone who has pledged and has backed the project. This is what you're going to be looking forward to next. So they're going to be using a third-party software designed for pledge management. We'll be using it to get your shipping information, allow you to get more add-ons if you want them, to deliver the digital rewards, and manage your pledges. We'll be opening it up in a few weeks. When we do, they'll release an update. So again, you have to continue to follow the Kickstarter page. This is update number 19. So update number 20 will, I guess, be their end of September or early October update. I'm not really sure what way they're exactly going to do it, but that's what's going to happen. And this is where you'll fully give them your shipping information, and also where you'll get to choose stuff like if you want Aang or Korra on the front of your special edition main book and stuff like that. Next steps, they're going to be taking a break to renew and regroup. A week or so they're taking off. Then they're going into production, finishing writing, editing, and so on. They're talking about the quick start once again. We'll be posting 1 update a month. These updates will fill you in on the progress, show what they're working on, and give you new play materials as we go. So I guess that means as they complete stuff, they will be giving out a couple of extra little bits to add on to the quick start, just so that you're not, I suppose, playing with that basic version of the game for the entire run of the campaign, even though it's been so successfully funded. So I'm guessing that'll probably be stuff like they might put out another one of the adventures to help people create a bit of a story. I wouldn't be surprised if they released at least 1 NPC legend just to see how it works. Stuff like that, and we'll see how it goes. So it's worth continuing to follow this, and not just wait until like January, February for the final product. It seems like there will be little bits and pieces that happen along the way also. So hugely successful, and to me, the way I view this and these numbers is it's more about just the success of the fandom. Like, it's fully back now. The fact that something like this, a project which is effectively what the product is a book. It is a book about how to play this game. Like, I'd say 85% of this book is game mechanics and how to play this game, and then it's maybe 10-15% like actual Avatar information. So a relatively small amount of this project is stuff that I think all Avatar fans are kind of interested in. But the fact that they marketed this quite well, they made the campaign into such an event that they got Avatar fans who maybe aren't even tabletop role-playing game fans interested in this. And part of that is that, you know, if you pledged at any of the physical tiers, you get a ton of stuff. All those kind of cool physical items that even if the game isn't for you, you're getting a lot for a not a ton of money, basically. So, you know, they definitely did a good job, and it just highlights how kind of desperate Avatar fans are for new content, that this did so well. So very, very interesting and cool to see there. Next piece of news is that we got the final reveal here on the new Azula exclusive Funko Pop. So you can see here Funko Europe talking about it, so it's not just exclusive to one place in America. That is where it is exclusive to in America, as shown here on the normal Funko account. But we do get our look at it here. So it's exclusive in the UK to Pop in a Box, C discount in France, and back to the toys in the Netherlands. So yeah, let's take a look at this. So yes, as we found out, of course, we knew from the hair and stuff like that, from the pose, it was going to be Azula from the finale during her duel with Zuko. And that's exactly what it is. The chase version is a glow-in-the-dark chase version with the flames being glow-in-the-dark. That's going to be cool. Hopefully that works quite nicely. As I've shown before in previous videos, glow-in-the-dark Funkos are kind of hard to activate, and it's less that you just leave it there, turn off the lights and they glow, and more of like you charge them up with a lot of light and, you know, see the latent light sort of like leak out from them more so. So, you know, it's not as glow in the dark as you think, but you can still get the effect if you want to. But it does require quite a bit of setup. I think it looks quite good. Obviously, this Azula and her mental state in this scene, the emotion of that doesn't perhaps come across as well in a Funko here, and the lack of a mouth really sort of affects something like this. But the pose is pretty dynamic here, that I think it works really well. Like, they do a great job on the Fire Nation armor on all the Funkos, and her hair, I think, after cutting it, is very nicely done here. The only thing I would say is that it's a little inaccurate to the scene. The reason being is that Azula is not wearing a hairpiece at all in this scene as it happens. As you can see here, this is her doing that move where she's charging along the ground by using her fire to propel her. She's got nothing in her hair. Here's a closer up look during that same sequence. As you can see, nothing in her hair. But this is clearly the scene that they're going for here, because this is the only fight where she's properly firebending that she's doing while her hair is like this. So it's a little unfortunate that there's that slight mistake there in terms of full-on accuracy. I get it, it's a nice detail to have, in that having that in her hair makes the Funko actually more detailed, but sort of, I suppose, less accurate to the exact scene. That said, if we compare this to the original Azula Funko Pop, you'll notice that the hairpiece on this is red and it's gold there. Now, that might seem like an error, but if you look at just random shots of Azula from throughout the series, it does change from red to gold depending on what scene you're in. Sometimes it's like gold with little bits of red, you know. It changed a few times over the course of the series, but it's nice looking, and it's a dynamic enough Azula. It's a new Azula, so if you couldn't get your hands on the original one, here's a new one. Pretty cool. If I can get this without paying a ton, I probably will, but I'm relatively happy with the Azula that I already have. But there is the information on it. Big Apple Collectibles have it in the US, and so far here are the places for Europe. So that's that. Next, we have some extra information on Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. So this is the Smash Bros. Nickelodeon style game, where all the Nickelodeon characters are going to be fighting in a similar style to Smash Bros. The news here is that the cover image has sort of leaked. Previously, it was just done as a silhouette, and they'd been slowly revealing the characters. But I think it was Nintendo on the eShop, when they put the game up for pre-order, just revealed the cover. And so that's what we have here. Here's the full cover image highlighting all the characters. I don't think this is every character, this is just the box art characters, but you can see Aang is here, confirmed, Korra is here, confirmed. We definitely have 2 Avatar characters. It wasn't really in question because we figured it out from the silhouette, the fact that from the initial trailer there were Avatar stages. There's going to be stuff. The bigger question now is obviously when they eventually get around to revealing the other characters. I'm expecting Avatar to almost get a reveal to itself, because the previous reveal that they did, as shown here, is that they revealed April from TMNT and CatDog as like 2 extra characters in addition to the like first batch. So I'm guessing of the few ones still left to be revealed, obviously it's Aang, Korra, and then Ren and Stimpy. So that feels like clear-cut 2 reveals to do the Ren and Stimpy reveal, and then do the Aang and Korra reveal. And then I'm guessing there is other characters as well in the final game, because I think you can see Leonardo's on the cover here, but I think we know that one of the other turtles is there, so it highlights there's more characters than they're just on the box art. So will there be more Avatar and Korra? I think there will be. I'd be shocked if we didn't get at least a sort of Fire Nation character and an Earth Bender character to sort of at least round off the set of having at least 1 character from each element. So I'd guess more like, say, Zuko and Toph maybe to finish it off. And then, you know, it feels like a bit weird, like surely Katara should make an appearance in this, but we'll see how many they do. So that's that. The other thing here is that the release date seems to have also leaked out at basically the same time, and that is that October 5th looks to be the release date of the game, which leaves them only about a month to actually reveal everything else about the game. So I guess within the next couple of weeks we're going to get a reveal that includes Aang and Korra. So look forward to that. I'm very interested to see how they work in game and how their attacks are, and especially when the game comes out, how good are the Avatar characters in comparison to some of the other ones. But it's actually looking quite good in terms of finally, you know, a video game that features the characters in a position where you can fight as them. So that's cool. And then the last piece of news here is just I wanted to give some more opinion and discussion on the news from yesterday about the Avatar films from Avatar Studios going to be using CG animation. So again, here's the exact quote from the Viacom article from Brian Robbins. One of the other big projects that we're working on the theatrical front is Avatar. We signed a deal to bring the original creators of Avatar back into the studios. They started Avatar Studios and they're well on their way in development on a series of CG films and a new Avatar series. So the details here are obviously that the films are done in CG and it is a series of films, which we didn't know before. We knew there was going to be multiple films, but the fact that they're specifically saying it's a series of films gives it something to speculate on. CG is obviously the new thing that people have very much latched onto from this, but it is also interesting to note that they're specifically noting now that also in development is a new Avatar series. So that I think is a little bit different than their like initial statement where they said Avatar Studios will make films, series, spin-offs and short form content. That's sort of over the entire lifespan of Avatar Studios. They're going to do projects that hit all these things. Now we have confirmation that right now, currently in development is at least one movie, but they're also planning multiple, so I guess they're all being planned at roughly the same time, and a series. That fits with what they said before, where in the initial announcement it was confirmed that the first project is going to be a movie, and also that in the extra information in the sort of press release, they talked about within the first 2 years on Paramount Plus that they would have sort of series from franchises that include Avatar. So we knew that, okay, even though the movie's the first project, that also a series was coming apparently within the first 2 years. So this all fits everything that we sort of know, and obviously the general interpretation here would be that because they specify CG films and then only say and a new Avatar series, that would to me suggest that CG isn't being done for the Avatar series, and that the Avatar series probably will more be like the previous 2 series, Avatar and Korra. So that's the important thing to note here in full context of the main news about this, obviously, is that the movies are CG, but I think a lot of people are latching onto that as like, oh no, Avatar Studios is only doing CG, when the actual quote seemingly makes it clear that no, it's just the films that are CG. And the fact that they say a new Avatar series referencing the other 2 seems pretty clear about what they are doing. So, what was the reaction to this in the last sort of 24 hours? It's definitely fair to say the reaction's been like relatively mixed. Of course, with something like this, you are going to have a lot of a reaction of just like, no, I can't believe they're doing 3D CG Avatar. That's exactly what we didn't want. That this kind of has been a bit of news that for some people has really turned their opinion on Avatar Studios, that this is sort of the first major piece of news that we've heard about, is sort of what we didn't want. That I don't think many people really had it in their minds that one of the bigger projects from Avatar would completely change the art style like this. And again, I think until someone somewhere in Avatar Studios or one of the other execs comes out and actually specifies and clarifies specifically, this is planned to be high quality CG, it's going to look fantastic, we know fans will like it, and that the series is going to be done in a style similar to the other series. Until they say that, I understand why people are being somewhat critical and very skeptical about the CG reveal, because the lack of communication about Avatar Studios in the last 7-8 months has created this situation where we can only speculate, and we're being drip fed information to the point where technically, like, this is major news. CG films, like the CG alone, is a kind of major news to just slip out like this casually in an article that otherwise isn't really about Avatar. He just mentions Avatar in a general talk about what Viacom CBS are doing for Paramount Plus, and we as fans, given that this is all we've had to go on in the last 6 months, of course we're kind of jumping on this and being like, what does this mean? Tell us, that sort of thing. So I get it. I did, on my YouTube channel, put up a poll. Let me just refresh this and see where we are. So 126 votes in so far in about 6 hours. So pretty decent. Like, over 100 votes. You get a sense for, like, this is more or less how at least my audience has taken this piece of information. So I asked everyone, how do you feel about CG being used for Avatar? The 5 options I gave were effectively sort of strong agree, neutral, disagree, strong disagree. Your classic sort of responses to a question. So in terms of very happy about CG sort of could improve things, i.e. I'm actually happier that it's being done in CG rather than 2D. Like, super positive about CG. Only 2%. And I think that makes sense, because I think a lot of people are kind of maybe struggling a little bit with the nuance of this, that if someone is being negative towards 3D, that they're just being negative for the sake of it, when actually it's more the worry about, like, oh, like the tradition of Avatar using 2D, that we don't have that anymore, and not knowing about the different projects, that sort of thing. So I understand why, like, this one has not received too much of a response overall. That makes sense. On the other end of the scale, the other extreme option of very disappointed that CG is being used, 10%. And I think this does make sense in terms of the extreme opinions. Not many people are just like, yes, CG is the best thing ever. Of course, because as Avatar fans, we're used to 2D being we expect 2D from the big project, and now they're saying the films won't use that. The very heavy disappointment, obviously, is, you get it. Like, you're going to get this response because the news is so just laser focused on CG films. That's all they said. There was no comment on what studio they're using, the budget that they have. Is it going to be the same quality as this or that? We just don't know. And obviously, the people who are more positive about it are thinking that that means the movie is going to be the same quality as the Spider-Verse film, or a Pixar movie or something like that, when we don't know that that's going to be the case. But the people who are being negative are maybe more thinking that, like, this is going to be like Reboot, like thinking that CG is still sort of maybe back in the Ice Age, type thing. When CG has improved drastically. There's been good CG shows, which is why I think a lot of the core of the votes here are more in the middle of 15% saying neutral, of like basically they don't have much of an opinion on this until we get more information. 15% makes a lot of sense. And then the sort of neutral leaning more positive of CG could work nicely if done well won with 44%, which I think highlights that there is still a general positivity around Avatar Studios, with the idea that this news, the fact that Mike and Brian are in charge, that basically Mike and Brian would not have sort of agreed to do this in CG if they weren't confident that they could do this right. Have you guys have heard them talk on interviews? Just listen to the last episode of the Braving the Elements podcast, and you can hear Brian being critical, openly and quite bluntly speaking about how critical he is when he looks back on, say, book 1 of Avatar, the amount of things that he would improve in terms of animation and so on. He, I don't think, would accept like doing a series of CG movies if it's going to be bad or low quality. So he obviously feels they can accomplish something with this, and I think that's why there is more so of a response of like people being a little bit more like, I can accept this as the way we're going, on the assumption that it's going to be done well. And I believe it can be done well because Brian won't let this be bad. That sort of a thing. And that makes sense. And then the second highest vote was, of course, 29% for skeptical of CG until proven otherwise. So I think this makes complete sense, that ultimately the main response to this is neutral, and some people are more positive, some people are more negative. And obviously, in both cases, waiting for them to actually confirm what's happening here. Because there's a few things that I think factor into this in terms of, did Mike and Brian make this decision to do CG, or is a movie only happening for Avatar if it's being done in CG? Because, like, when was the last time sort of a non-anime movie came out and was done in like 2D animation? I don't really even remember. It doesn't happen as much anymore, as unfortunate as it is. Obviously, I think you can absolutely make the argument that Avatar should be an exception, that people recognize Avatar as being a primarily 2D animated thing. So why would you maybe take the risk for a movie about doing Avatar in 3D? And are they doing this to try and bring in your typical kid movie audience? And do we want to do that or not? And maybe what does that say about the age rating of the movie, or what? Again, there's so much speculation. We don't know. None of that is confirmed. I don't think you can immediately think CG immediately means aiming lower at kids. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, because, as people have pointed out, a 3D movie like Spider-Verse, I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard great things about it. Stuff like, say, Star Wars, Clone Wars Season 7, and also The Bad Batch, they both have the same animation style, and it's really good. It's able to do really strong action. Has anyone seen the Ahsoka Darth Maul fight from Season 7 of the Clone Wars? You can do big action, full-on martial arts if you want to, in CG style. And you have to assume that artists like Brian and the team that they choose will be able to create a CG style that works for Avatar. That it's not going to be this mess, they won't let it be that way. So I get that, but again, something like this, I think I more, rather than I think focusing more on the CG, I'm more about like the communication from them about this. Now that this information is out there, can Mike and Brian actually speak about CG? Can they say anything about it? Has this been sort of said publicly because news is going to come? Because I think the best thing for them to do now to sort of help with the sort of PR surrounding the, you know, what do you want to say, there is going to be a backlash with CG or not. You know, it depends on how vocal, I suppose, the maybe negative response is to it being CG is. They probably should get out there ahead of this and kind of be like, say something, or say that you've got an announcement coming about this. And I'd hope that potentially at New York Comic Con they maybe do have at least like a poster to show off, maybe a teaser clip, just to give a glimpse into what the animation style is, just to show people that, hey, we know you're skeptical, we know you're used to, as Avatar fans, to this, but look what we can do with this, with a big movie budget. Look what we can do. That's that. Obviously, I think basically every Avatar fan would probably prefer a 2D, high-quality, animated, traditionally animated Avatar movie. That is a more exciting cinema experience for me, in theory, than 3D. But it doesn't mean that a 3D Avatar movie won't be good. So there's that. And look, I know some people's response to this has been more of, well, the actual animation style, how it's presented, doesn't matter to me as much as how the characters and story are done. And I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fine. But for some people, the way it's presented is going to quite heavily matter. And so we have to be sort of open to all these different opinions that the visuals do matter. Like the visuals is part of the Avatar identity, in the sense that, let's go back to this for instance. How differently would this have gone if the visuals throughout this were CG renders of the characters? You know, that sort of a thing. And like going forward, if this CG is kind of the way we're maybe going, that are we going to be okay with like a lot of the a lot of the promo stuff being in this different style when we're so used to some really, you know, stylish art like, you know, Toph, Korra, you know, Tenzin, some new art of Zuko there, Bolin, you know, new art of Aang, stuff like that. You know, they're the sort of things that we do have going on. So, yeah, that's where we kind of are with things. So I'm pretty much going to, you know, end it there. Obviously, myself, I see myself maybe being more sort of middle, maybe sort of leaning either way into sort of, I can definitely see the positives of like, if it's done well, yeah, but also that I really did want 2D more than 3D. Again, communication. This reaction, I think, changes completely if you come out and basically clarify that, yes, the movies are going to be CG, but the series, the third series, the sort of ATLA, LOK, this is going to be done in the art style that you expect. If they confirm that, that changes things. And it helps to sort of clarify more of just what Avatar Studios is, that the series are going to be done in this style, films in this style, the spin-off series might have a different style as well, and then short form content stuff might have more of the Republic City Hustle style, or a more basic style because they're going to be YouTube shorts or something like that. That's sort of the way to view this. But again, a lot of this at this point comes down to tiny little bits of information that we as fans are going to interpret in one way. They need to clarify and give full context to what's going on here. So communication is key. And I don't know if I would view this and us getting information from this as necessarily being strong communication. given how long it's been since the initial announcement. So that's sort of my thoughts on this whole thing. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the success of the Kickstarter now that it has ended, and obviously our attention now turns to fulfill. Magpie Games now need to fulfill this thing with little to no delays. That's what they need to do. Thoughts on the new Azula Funko Pop, in addition to the confirmation that Aang and Korra are going to be in the All-Star Brawl game. And then finally, more thoughts on CG Avatar movies. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.